And our topic today, because they're playing the Broncos are playing the Packers, your 6 greatest memories from the Broncos Packers Super Bowl. I'll start. I remember San Diego is a traffic mess. And it was so bad. I was so worried about getting to the stadium on time that I jumped out of the car. I was in a cab. I jumped out of the cab and walked the last mile and a half to the stadium. Traffic was so bad and it wasn't moving.
Oh, see, you were so badly mistaken what you're doing.
What do you mean?
You must be some kind of rookie.
Why?
You have rookie cyanosis or something every once in a while. There's great light rail from wherever you were staying. I don't know where you could have, but there's light rail that stops right beside the stadium.
I never took light rail in San Diego.
Where
I was
were
in
you staying?
The team hotel, I believe. Oh, no. Maybe the Hyatt Islandia? I don't remember.
No, the Islandia has been gone for 30 years.
I don't remember.
You were probably staying downtown
let me do my
in the
pick
media
6.
hotel.
Whatever.
Okay.
I took a cab. I jumped out.
Oh.
All right, number 5, the scalpers. They were asking, as I was walking to the stadium, they were asking for $5,000 for 2 tickets. And that was really steep at that point. Remember, this is 1998. And I went back out to the front of the stadium right before the game started to see what they were asking. I was curious. Still asking $5,000 for 2. And it was because it was the Green Bay Packers, who hadn't been to the Super Bowl in a long time. Green Bay's fans travel very well. And it was Favre against Elway, which made the game that much more attractive to everybody. So the scalpers didn't drop their prices.
I had 48 tickets. I know that would stun you.
Really?
48 tickets.
Wow.
I was demanded by my bosses here to get 48 tickets because
Wow.
they were from Green Bay and they had Dealing Doug and all those people that they were taking.
Huh.
And I wasn't going to have any more kids, but I offered up my next born to people. I got 48 tickets, and the face value was, I had to have the paper write me a check for 48, like $85,000.
Wow.
And a guy in the hotel asked me if I had any tickets, and I said 48. And he
started foaming at the mouth.
Scalper. And he said, I'll write you a check for $125,000. And I said, nah. He said, okay, $200,000.
Wow. Would have been a nice payday.
$200,000. And so I called the publisher of the paper, and I said, you know, I got these tickets. I'm coming over to see you, but there's a new price involved. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, Scalper just offered me $200,000 for them. He said, well, you got to give them to me. And I said, well, either that or I'll call you from Cabo and say goodbye. And I said, but there has to be something in it for me.
Of course.
And he said, well, we'll talk when we get back to Denver.
So halftime, I went out to the concourse, and I ran into Janet Elway. And she didn't look good to me. I said, what's the matter? She said, I'm so stressed. Janet, and it's very public knowledge, has Crohn's disease. And her stomach gets upset when she's stressed. She missed most of the game because she was in the restroom almost all the game. And I ran into her, and I was wondering why she didn't look very good.
You ran into her in the restroom?
No, on the concourse as she was going yet again to the restroom.
Okay.
And I'm sure she's thrilled that I'm telling that story. Number 3, the helicopter
you think
play.
She was in a
No, she wasn't in a, no.
seat somewhere.
No. The helicopter play, of course. Number 2, the greatest moment that I've ever covered in sports, being on the field and being just a few yards from John Elway as he took the final snap, turned around, and ran backwards with this unbelievable smile on his face. And then the post-game interviews, they had sectioned off the players and their families so the media couldn't get to them. But I knew one of the guys in charge of security, and he let me inside the fence, and I was able to conduct all these interviews one-on-one with all these players, including the whole Elway family.
Barry Fayed put that together. Those security guys were
and I knew one of the guys he brought in from Denver.
Yeah, we've got 2 different memories of that whole thing. It's really interesting. 6 is the Favre-Elway duel, and what I mean by that is back and forth, and it, you know, the Broncos were ahead and they were behind, and back and forth. And number 5, the 2 defensive backs hurt. Steve Atwater was hurt, and I've forgotten who the other one was. I think it was Chicken.
Tyrone Braxton.
2 guys were hurt on 3rd down, and the Packers had to go for it on 4th down, and the Broncos were trying to scurry in some backup defensive backs, because they had two that went down on the play, on the third down play. They knew kind of what was coming, and they crashed into each other. It was not the Packers guys, but the two Broncos guys. Atwater wasn't in the game for the fourth down. Number 3, Terrell's headache. You remember that. Terrell had a migraine, and Greek told Mike Shanahan that Terrell couldn't go back in the game. And he called Terrell over and he said, Terrell, you have that headache? He said, I'm blind. He was physically blind. He forgot to take his migraine medication before. And Mike said, I need you to go in. He said, I can't see. You don't have to see. You're fake.
You're a decoy.
Yeah. And so he kind of could barely. Yeah. It was hazy. He went in and you, if you ever watch the tape, you see him. John fakes to him, and Terrell kind of stands there. He doesn't know what to do because he can't see, and it's a fake. And he throw to Howard Griffith, I think, or he rolls out. So that's so memorable to me that Mike said, "I don't need you to run."
You skipped one. What's the fake headline?
Oh, fake headlines. Number 4. Every time the Broncos went to the Super Bowl, the Post would put together a fake newspaper that you hold up. Everybody's seen this. Yeah. That you hold up at the end of the game. Broncos win the Super Bowl. Every time they went to the Super Bowl, the 5 times before that, 77, everything, I would write the story during the week. And when you get to like the 6th time, you kind of go, because you're writing it. I wrote it. Barry Fay was in my room eating my room service because I ordered it, and Barry said, I'm going to lunch with Dick Craig. And I'd be damned if when my room service got there and I was still finishing up this fake story, and I turned and Barry had eaten the egg rolls and everything else. I said, you're going to lunch. Well, go with me. I said, no, I got to finish this up. So I'd write these fake stories and put a headline on it. Broncos win Super Bowl. And I'd carry them to the game, and we'd have people hand them out and throw them to CBS or whoever was doing the game. And I was so excited that I finally
wrote one that was going to be used.
That was going to be used, and it's in the stadium here. It's up on the wall, and it was a fake story. It has no score in it, has no details. It's just, it's finally the Broncos win. Right. Well, I kept doing this, and you'd think I'd use the same one, but there were different circumstances each time. So that I have to remember that, because on the sidelines, the Broncos are holding up the fake story, and I said, finally, my fake story gets out there. Number 2 is the helicopter, the play, and it's a famous picture that John Leyba took, and Dean Singleton, who owned this paper forever, there's 2 original copies. John Elway has one, and Dean Singleton has one, and they're the only 2 that exist. And number 1, and I was surprised you didn't say this. You're talking about all the other stuff, but Pat Bowlen saying this one's for John, and shouting it out. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's
all the confetti
I don't
falling.
think there's another moment in Super Bowl presentation history like this one's for John.
Sure.
And Pat claims to me he didn't plan that out, but that was his true emotion. And John, isn't it ironic that John Elway, Pat Bowlen held up the Super Bowl trophy and said, "This one's for John," and Pat's going in the Ring of Fame.
Yeah, I wonder if
Sunday night.
You think John will speak?
John?
John Elway. For Pat Bowlen this weekend?
I don't think, based on what I know, Pat Bowlen probably won't speak. I think he'll be there. He'll be in the box. I think he'll wave. I don't know that they'll take him out on the field. And he has bad Alzheimer's, and it's in a terrible state. Yeah. So I think it's meaningful that it's kind of John. I'm sure, because John and I talked this before, that I think he'll say, this one's for Pat.
Yeah.